Kelly Lang, Jack Perkins, LA at 4.
If you kept up with the news Wednesday, there was every reason to believe it was normal again. If you thought about it, there was every reason to believe it was not.
And if you understood that, it means you are perceptive beyond comprehension, or you're just a constant viewer of Overnight, even when there is no World Series.
Amin Gemayel is the 40-year-old president of Lebanon, elected after his brother was elected, then killed before he could take office. Amin Gemayel is not well known outside of Lebanon. His brother did the front work. He stayed behind the scenes. But President Gemayel came out on Tuesday, his debut, if you will, on the international scene, and he played it to the hilt in Washington.
Amin Gemayel marched through Washington like a veteran, and that was one of the Reagan administration's chief aims. To build up Gemayel as a world leader to aid his drive to strengthen Lebanon. The first stop was the White House, and in 2 hours of talks, the two presidents discussed Lebanon's economic and military problems. Afterward, both men said the U.S. must play a central role.
President Gemayel can rely upon the help of the United States. It is my hope that our mutual efforts will lead to restored peace and prosperity for all the people of Lebanon and indeed in all of the Middle East.
We see the U.S. role as the indispensable ingredient to bring peace not only to Lebanon but also to the whole region as well.
But if the image building was easy, some of the underlying problems were not. The prime goal of both presidents is to get the more than 100,000 foreign troops out of Lebanon by the end of the year. Gemayel called for expanding the multinational peacekeeping force that is now in Beirut, possibly sending troops to southern or eastern Lebanon. It is known that Mr. Reagan wants the hostile foreign forces out so badly that he will take a request for more U.S. troops very seriously. In the afternoon, Gemayel drove across town to the World Bank, seeking economic aid. An estimated $10 billion needed to rebuild his battered country. The U.S. has given Lebanon $105 million in increased aid, and now expects other countries to do their share. Leaving the bank, Gemayel stated the same goal.
We will try with the World Bank and with all the friends of Lebanon to rebuild a new country, a beautiful Lebanon.
Later, a ceremony at the Pentagon and another request for military aid to double the size of the Lebanese army to 40,000 men. U.S. officials say they will help Gemayel, but are awaiting a report from an American survey in Lebanon. In the evening, Gemayel met the diplomatic community at a reception. One more part of what a senior American official called the Lebanese president's debut on the world scene. But Gemayel did not linger in Washington, leaving late Tuesday to take his call for military and economic assistance to Western Europe. Administration officials said they were encouraged by his visit, and that there is increased optimism about getting all foreign forces out of Lebanon by the end of the year. Chris Wallace, NBC News, at the White House.
Here with a report on the economy of Lebanon is Christopher Morris of the BBC.
The priority now is for Beirut to recapture its position as the principal commercial and financial center of the Middle East. Among the Lebanese people, there's undoubtedly resilience, a determination to succeed. But as shops reopen for business and life in the city slowly gets back to something like normal, it's clear Beirut is going to need an economic miracle. Traditionally, Lebanon has favored a private enterprise economy. But the years of strife, from civil war to Israeli invasion, have changed all that. Bankers and businessmen have fled. Foreign investors are now understandably wary in the face of political uncertainty. And although the Lebanese pound has stayed remarkably stable, the economy is crippled. The Belfast-style street patrols by the Lebanese army don't exactly reassure that peace has arrived at last. And the once booming tourism business is as shell-shocked as the ruins of the Holiday Inn and the Hilton Hotel. 2 million holidaymakers annually have simply been frightened away. And they won't be hurrying back, at least not until Lebanon's capital is made safe. Even now, there are main streets in the heart of Beirut where no man dares to tread. Their mind. And so, over the years, a jungle has taken over, a quite extraordinary sight. Reactivating Lebanon's economy also means unblocking the port of Beirut, getting rid of the rusting wrecks of cargo boats blown up during the civil war. Until their recent evacuation, PLO guerrillas controlled much of the port area, with trade at a standstill. But now they're gone, the container ships are able to dock again, bringing in vital supplies and raw materials for Lebanon's industry. The task of cleaning up the debris of war will, of course, take several months. And in a city which has seen so much fighting for so long, it'll take everyone a considerable time adjusting to a normal way of life again.
Here, in a way, is what you might call the first part of the American dream. John DeLorean is vice president of General Motors. He is smart, nice-looking, with a taste for fast cars, good-looking women, and outrageous, at least to GM, statements on social issues. He is, as we say, his own man. He clashes with GM, he leaves. He opens, with $4 million of his own money and several $1 million not his own, a plant in Ireland. He will produce a state-of-the-art automobile. He will show them back in Detroit. But the car costs $22,000, and most countries where it would sell are struggling with recession. The way the American dream is supposed to end, the car sells, DeLorean is a hero, and Detroit has been given what for. That's the way it's supposed to happen. That's why there are no fine words or even sensible words to explain this next story, reported by correspondent Don Oliver.
A draft resistor has been sentenced to 2 years, but not in jail. He'll have to work in a hospital for the retarded. 22-year-old Mark Schmucker, a Mennonite, said his religious beliefs prevented his registering, and his judge apparently accepted his beliefs, if not his action. Tom Barris of WKYC Cleveland covered the trial.
To 80 or so anti-war, anti-draft protesters who rallied on the courthouse steps, Mark Schmucker's a hero, and his arrival brought cheers. But inside, Mark Schmucker faced a possible 5 years in prison and $10,000 fine, and the government wanted to see him behind bars. Pre-sentence recommendation saying probation alone is insufficient. Schmucker told Judge Ann Aldrich, "I made my decision because I follow the teachings of Christ." His lawyer, William Whitaker, said Mark's courage and self-discipline should be rewarded. And Judge Aldrich hinted she disagreed with the law, but called her oath to enforce it as sacred as any religious belief. Then came Mark's sentence, 3 years probation, but he must spend 2 years living and working at a home for retarded adults in Missouri, and pay a $4,000 fine. Mark called the sentence fair and lighter than expected.
Well, I basically prepared myself for the worst. I tried to start thinking about what might happen if I was sentenced to prison, such as getting handcuffed by the marshals and all that stuff. I'm glad that I'll be able to help somebody down there in Missouri.
Schmucker's appealing his conviction. Tonight he's free, but he must report to the Missouri home next Tuesday. Judge Aldrich's decision upholds the law, respects Mark's beliefs, and does society some good. And the last thing she told Mark could have come from any one of his supporters. The prayers of many of us are with you. Tom Barris for NBC News, Cleveland.